one thing that I got from is just about what are those things that cause this explosion in our children and how we approach them. And the first thing that I got from it is that first, you need every parent, you need to know your child first.
Absolutely.
You need to know your child first. And once you do that, then you can know that, okay, these are the things that, bring my child or my children to the point of explosion. So, and I also saw, just like Madam Enemy said, that the plan B she loved. So they gave us, how do I put it now, plans that we can use to work with our children, and they were explained. So we have the plan A, which is what I would say, we are used to in Africa, or let me narrow it down to Nigeria, is what we are used to in Nigeria, which is the forceful method. We don't dialogue with our children, which is the option of the plan B, because it had even shown that it's one of the source of our major problem that we see in our children. Number one, because plan A is just about force, is you are the only one that is thinking. The child does not have the opportunity to think, and which we are seeing. That is why even them engaging in conversation is very difficult, because they have not been taught, or they don't know how to go about having a dialogue with people. So the plan A is the forceful method. The plan B is using dialogue. And when you are dialoguing, there are other things that you need to put into consideration when you are dialoguing, which is the empathy. You are putting the child's feelings on the table. You are not throwing their feelings away. It's not about you. So, they come up with something, maybe like they say, I don't want to go to school. We just don't come with the plan A, which is the idea that we have been used to. I say, what do you mean you're not going to school? You're going to go to school. It's a must. It's a force. Thank God we know better today. So, the plan B is that what you need to ask the child, oh, you don't want to go to school. You are empathic towards their feeling. You don't want to go to school today. There must be something that is making the child not wanting to go to school. So the plan B gives us the option of saying that, look, you need to have a dialogue with the child, putting the child's feelings into consideration. The other thing that the book talks about is the plan C, which is that if a child says that, oh, I want candy, and the child starts showing tantrums, and you now be like, okay, just because the child says he wants the candy, so I don't want this child to give me issues. Let me get the candy for the child. So of all the three plans, the book is telling us that the best plan that we can use is the plan B, whereby we can dialogue with the children, so we can see the problem that they have, we can understand them. It also told us instances whereby plan A is the only option that we can only engage the children in, which is that when they are in danger, for safety, emergency purpose, then as parents, we are left with no other option than to use the forceful method. Other than that, we must always have a dialogue with our children. There were some points that I also noted, but I wouldn't want to take our time, so I can give room for other people. It talks about other parts that got me, sorry, ma'am, is the other part that we can be surrogates.
Frontal
where
lobe.
did I write it?
Frontal
lobe. We can be surrogate lobe to our children. So meaning that they know everything. So as at the time that they are not aware, we can help them to come to that level whereby they become independent. They can be able to think by themselves and think and get solution to whatever challenge it is that they are facing. I think it's an amazing book, and sincerely, aside from the fact that we are reading it, I think it's a book that we should even talk about in our congregation, in our set, maybe in the church, wherever, so that parents will know that our children are not our problem. We are also a problem once we cannot understand our children. That's my take on the book.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I saw that part where it talks about you are your child's surrogates, as in a surrogate frontal lobe. The thing is, the frontal lobe is the part of the brain that is responsible for reasoning. Now, I am looking at this book. I'm not looking at it from the angle of parenting an explosive child, because I don't have an explosive child. I know that many of us here don't have explosive children. So I'm looking at it from the fact that this strategy can apply to every child. Like the book says that you be your child's surrogate frontal lobe. Simply means that your child is not, there is a point your child is not able to reason. So you are that his or her reasoning faculty, because the frontal lobe is for reasoning, and the reasoning faculty is not fully grown until your child gets to, some say 18, some say 25, some say, I just saw recently that it's 28. I think it's in this book I even saw 28. I'm like, 28, fair. That's a very long one though. Because I've always heard 18. And I said, oh, even when I'm teaching my teenagers, I'll always tell them those things. I tell them that, do you know why you listen to your parents? Because according to science, you still need you need a lot of practice to develop your reasoning skills. I always say them, I say, you see your parents, they've lived 30, 40, 50 years. Their reasoning capacity has fully developed. Yours has not fully developed. So you need them to help you come together to sharpen your reasoning capacity. Now, this is why you must always listen to them. It's what I always tell my teenagers when I'm telling them about why they need to consult their parents, or they need to consult adults that have been through that. Tell them that your parents have, do you know when your parents were 15? Do you know when they were 16? Everything you are experiencing today, they've experienced it. So when they are telling you, they are teaching you from experience and knowledge. They combine it to teach you. So, but I was surprised when this book said 28, and I said 28. That's a long one. Thank you so much, ma. Thank you. So let's hear someone. So we are just using 5 minutes each to share what we learned from the book. So who is helping us next?
Good evening, ma.
Good evening, ma.
I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, ma. Just a few points to note.
Okay.
It says something that children do well if they can.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
from that particular, so it made me to realize that we need to understand that there are some things that these children are not doing well at because they lack the skills to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at it from that angle, that is because they do not have what it takes to be able to do that thing, then we'll be able to come in to know how we want to help them. Yes. And that was when he talked about flexibility.
Yeah.
That flexibility and adaptability is not natural with every child.
Yeah.
It's not natural. And when we now want to look at it, we'll see that if the child is not flexible, the parent is not also flexible, then the result will be explosive.
Yes.
So, and that was worthy of note for me. And another thing I noted also is the fact that to know that all these children, there are certain things that they also have triggers. Then they cannot even there are times that they can't give words to their feelings.
Yes.
That it is through the way we are able to manage them that they will now be able to say, okay, this is the right word for the way I'm feeling. But it takes somebody that is very patient with them to be able to get them to that point. And that is the purpose of all these plans that we have. You know, we are so used to the emergency plan that most of the, and that's why we see even some children that are not explosive, you see them that it look like they are very stubborn, simply because we are not patient, we are not empathic with them. So I think it's for us to be able to know how to be able to manage these children. He told us about behavior management approach. Number one, providing the child with lots of positive attention
to
reduce the disability of negative attention. Then teaching parents to issue fewer and clearer commands.
So I'm listening. Sorry, ma.
When your command, no problem. When as parents, when our commands are not very clear enough, and we just assume that these children should understand, that can be a major problem for them. Then teaching the child that compliance is expected and enforced on all parental commands, that he may comply quickly because his parents are going to issue a command only once or twice. There are times that we module up so many instructions for them. And, you know, for an explosive child, it becomes so difficult for them to be able to comprehend. And you see that because of that, it looks like they get easily irritated. They get easily irritated because we do not give them just one instruction per time, and to be very sure that they are gotten it right. Please let me stop at that.
Okay, thank you very much, ma. Sorry,
I don't have the space to.
I can imagine. Thank you very much, ma. I was a bit distracted, but I was listening to you. Thank you very much, ma. Yes, I absolutely love the part that he repeated that children do well. Children will behave because they can. I don't remember the exact words. I saw it repeatedly. And there was a part I also saw when he was talking about some of the last part. He was talking about how I think the skills you need to be able to use the plan B. If you want to use the plan B, the skills you need. Then the first one he talked about was philosophy. Philosophy. You have a philosophy. Something like that is what praise for what we're called what did he call it? Yes, there was something he called his philosophy, perceptual code. He called it perceptual code. When he said something like, if your child, if you have a name for your child, for your family, for example, if you say my kids are royalty, or my family, we are royalty in this family, then you want to always treat your children based on that. In this book, I also saw something like that. The author says something like, you should have a philosophy. So if you believe that my kids will behave if they can, then it's just like a perceptual code. It's like, according to the author, the philosophy, you know that when they can, they will behave. So if they're not behaving, you know that they is because they cannot yet behave. And if you begin to understand that they cannot yet behave, so we'll have he also talked about reframing your thoughts. One of the things we have learned, that is when he talks about so there was one part he talked about how we interpret children's behaviors. We interpret them as manipulative. That is the explosive child. Like I'm saying, I'm not looking at it from the angle of the explosive child, because these things in this book applies to even the children that are not explosive. He talked about the way we interpret children's behavior, attention seeking, manipulative, and then disobedient, stubborn, and all of that. And that is the truth. When you interpret your child behaviors from this angle, you are likely going to use a method that will work for this angle. But when you interpret it from the angle of the child, the child cannot yet behave, we are also going to look at it from the angle that I need to teach this child how to behave. Thank you very much, ma. So who will help us again?
Okay, let me come in.
All right, thank you,
I
ma'am.
actually listened to the audio, even though
Okay.
I didn't finish it, and I was able to get one or two things from it. Now, the first one is, we expect our children, we minimize their feelings, we minimize their feelings generally. We feel that they don't maybe have the right to be angry, but
Yeah.
they don't have the right to be explode. Meanwhile, something is going on in their inside, which
Yes.
we really don't give a thought to. So that is one of the things I learned, not to minimize the children's feelings.
Yes.
Then another thing that really opened up to me was this thing of empathy,
Yeah.
being empathetic with the children. When we validate their feelings, we validate what they are going through. So even though we still in the process, we still insist on what we want, but we are validating their feeling, making them feel that they are okay. We know they are angry. We know that uh, it's okay, it's okay. We know that they are angry. Please, can you go away from me? Go away from me now. So, but we want to be empathetic with them. That's really all open my eyes with, and especially with all those many examples that
Yes.
they gave, using the various options, option A, option B,
Yes.
option C, especially the option B. So we want to note, I'm noting that because before now I'm really very authoritarian. I want my own will to be done, and forgetting that these children, they are also humans, and they have things going on in their mind.
Yes.
Some days ago, one of my daughters came to meet me. They are 6 years, they are twin, and she told me that something was telling her to throw the key out of the fence. I said, Jesus. I said, hope you didn't listen to that thing. No. And she said, no. I said, I hope. So if you had thrown the key, what do you think would have happened? And she was like, we will not be able to eat food again. I said, because if we want to go and buy something, we will not be able to buy something because the gate is locked. And in my mind, I was wondering, what brought about this thought? So immediately I made an affirmation. I said, oh yeah, let's say it together. I have the mind of Christ. I
Mm.
think only good thoughts. So I do what is right all the time. They're even reminding me now. So we were saying it. Then she went, and after about some minutes, she came back again. I was like, Mommy, do you know why I said that? I don't know. I was actually thinking what put that kind of thought in your mind. And she said she saw it in this phone, that a child threw the key out of the fence, and the mother could not go and buy food, so the children could not eat.
Yes.
And I now remembered what for what was said, because I was also in that seminar. He said we don't. When he said a child pours water and the
Okay.
phone, your
Yes.
iPhone will be there. Many people say they will beat the child, they will do this, they will do that.
Yeah.
And he said,
So,
you did not even give a thought that maybe the child saw something,
Yes.
and that was what that thing played out that day.
Yeah.
So in that book, I now understood that children behave because something is going through them,
Yeah.
especially the fact that they don't even have a language to express what they are going through. And here the adult is taking authority and dominating. So
Yeah.
I it's that's that skill of empathy was actually reinforced in me to
Wonderful.
learn to see things from the child's point of
Oh,
view,
yes.
and that can help to minimize explosion.
Yes, absolutely, ma. Absolutely, ma. Like sometime last year in park, a parent shared something that actually touched me and some of us. We were talking about always understanding why children do the things they do. So you just referring to the water illustration, I remember talking about children always do the things they do. I always said to them that I was always telling them that one of the things I realized is that children don't do things because they want to upset you. Something is always responsible for what they do. Just the same way adults, you just don't wake up and just do things. Children are human beings. They are human beings with emotions. They are human beings with, they can make mistakes. They are human beings that a lot of factors can jump into the way. So I was always hammering on that. And I was always also telling them that before you start flogging, yelling at your child, you actually want to sit down and understand what happened. So the parent shared that. So her phone was ringing in the bedroom.
I'm trying to make all this.
Hello. I want to, who is someone, please mute yourself. I'm trying to look at the person that is not muted. Okay, so she said her phone was ringing. And so her son, 4 years or 5 years, in an attempt to help, just grabbed the phone. I was running to give her the phone, and that was how the phone fell. And the husband was going to smack him. And he told her husband that, hey, I can always replace my phone, but I cannot replace this son. She said that was the turning point for her husband. That thing actually got to her husband. And that was, later the husband said, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I can always replace my phone. I can't replace this child, which is very true. And if you want to look at it, the boy did not just take the phone and smack it. If he had just unplugged the phone and hit it, then you will say, okay, now I am going to beat you because you deliberately did it. He did not do that deliberately. Even me as an adult, I know how many times my phone has fallen. You know how many times my phone has fallen from my own hand. So let alone a child. So if we begin to pause, we'll realize that, hey, these children, there are so many factors responsible for what they do, and we are also able to meet them. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you. Anybody helping us again? Anyone helping us again? Okay, so if you want to help us, just cut in. I will pause, and then you can share what you learned. So like I said, I actually read the book from the beginning to the end. I listened to the audio from the beginning to the end. Then after listening to the audio at the beginning of the month, I read the book towards the end of the month, and also used the audio to read some part of the books. So a few things I learned from the book, I'll quickly share. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm trying to share my slide, but I think I've exited Zoom again. I don't know if I should share my slide, or because it's okay. No, it's going to be boring. It's not like sharing. It's just my I will copy, because it's an ebook. I will just copy from the tests from the book and paste on my document. So that's how I got it. So first of all, the first things I noted down here is we want to always discipline children. We want to hit, yell, and all of that, because we think, oh, the child is difficult, the child is challenging, the child is willful, manipulative, attention seeking, unmotivated. Yes. So unmotivated. When we feel that the child is unmotivated, we want to motivate the child. When we feel the child is manipulative, we want to come from that angle. When we feel the child is attention seeking, we want to come from that angle. But if we realize that, okay, these are not really what defines the child, it will help us to be able to appropriate our discipline or whatever we want to do. Now, another major thing I learned is the different types of disorders children may have that will make them behave the way they do. We have oppositional defiant disorder, we have attention deficit disorder, we have intermittent explosive disorder, Tourette's disorder, depression, bipolar disorder, non-verbal learning disability, Asperger's disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, language processing impairment, sensory integration dysfunction, non-verbal learning disability, and reactive attachment disorder. Some of these disorders, I already know them because I study psychology and because I have done a lot of research on these things, but some of them I never really, I didn't know them, so I'm sure going to research more on them. So I learned that. I also learned that what else was, what did I, there are parents often discover the strategies that are usually effective in shaping. Okay. Also, there was something the author also talked about, talking about impassive. He shared some strategies parents use, like, you know, there's something he talks about extensively. Impassive anyways, that every child is not the same. So the fact that he's not actually condemning plan A or plan C, but what the author is saying that every child is not the same. There are some children that plan A will work for, some children plan B will work for, and plan C will work for, but not every child. So you need to understand your child. And I remember reading something on Facebook one time of a lady who said the brother was, and now that she's grown, she knew that the brother had disability, but the parents never knew, the teachers never knew. He had hyperactive disorder. The child was very hyperactive. And you know, children that are hyperactive, even if your child is not hyperactive, you just have a child who is predominantly sanguine. If you know about temperament, you know what they can be. They can be everywhere, all over the place. They can be so hyperactive. If your child is predominantly sanguine, they can be very hyperactive. Now, imagine a child with disability with a hyperactive disorder. It simply means that that child is going to be all over the place. Now, this was what the lady's brother was. He was always all over the place, and the parents did not know. Because of that, he will break things. He will not be able to be, he was restless. The parents will beat and beat and beat, and school, they will beat and beat and beat and beat. They beat shege out of him. And she was saying that now that the man is grown, the man, you know, all those beating, that's why I always say that when we talk about depression, even though we really don't know, they say they don't know the cause of depression. I always believe that, you see, all these childhood traumas combined with adulthood trauma put together, they can be the cause of depression. You know, they can be the cause of depression. The adulthood has a lot of baggages already. Then when the child now brings unresolved baggages into adulthood, all of them put together now, the trauma will be too much. That's how I see depression, you know. So now that the man is matured, is old, he has kind of outgrown that hyperactivity stage. He is not an active person. He is always moody, always depressed, and all of that. When she shared it, I really was touched. That was one of the first times I actually went to research about one of the first times I deliberately researched about disorders in children. So he listed a couple of disorders, and he talked about every child not being the same. And he said some children plan A will work for them. Some children plan A will not work for them. However, plan B works for every child, because plan B is empathy. And one of the things we need to realize is if we learn to use plan B, we are also teaching our children what is it called? Conflict resolution. We are teaching them empathy. We are teaching them consideration towards others. And one of the ways to use plan B, when you are using plan B, for example, you are first of all going to have the child put his concerns on the table. And this is what I have always talked about. If you don't know what your child is going through, if you don't know what is responsible for the behavior, how will you be able to solve the problem? How will you proffer solutions? That's what plan B is all about. When you understand what the child is going through, you put the child concern on the table. You know, we always assume. There's an illustration he gave. I'm not reading my slide again. I'm just talking. There's an illustration he gave of the child who wanted pizza. I don't know if you saw that. The child who wanted pizza. So he was saying that because the child said, "Mommy, I need pizza," it's easy for the parents to say, "Oh, my child is hungry." So you may now want to start giving alternative. "Oh yeah, come my eat yam porridge. Oh yeah, I have rice," and all of that. And the child may not want pizza because he or she is hungry. The child may want pizza because someone promised him pizza. Someone promised him pizza. So he just remembers, oh, someone promised me pizza. And that is why the child wants pizza. So if you do not have your child put his concern on the table, how would you know? And it is very, very true. If you don't learn to listen to the child and ask what, he also talked about lying. I don't know if you see that illustration on lying. I feel that is epic. When the child lied about homework and all of that, instead of the parents to just conclude, "You are telling a lie. I hate you telling a lie." The parents ask the child, why did you have to lie to me, or something like that? And the child said, "Because I didn't want you to feel bad." Someone has tagged me to a post where someone said lying is a learned behavior. Lying is a learned behavior. And I said some of these behaviors are not absolutely learned. They are not learned behavior per se. A lot of behaviors, lying is first a survivor behavior than a learned behavior. People lie a lot to survive. When I say survive, I don't mean survive death or anything. Maybe you want to keep being friends with someone, you want to survive rejection. That could make someone lie. Okay, so I was talking about telling a lie. Apologies about that. Sincere apologies. Oh, please come back, please. Try again now. Okay, so I was saying that sometimes it's not every time lying is a learned behavior. There are times with children, it's not every behavior that a child puts up that is a learned behavior. Some can be imaginative, some can be instinctive too, just like lying. A child may be lying because they don't want you to feel bad. They don't want to disappoint you. When you raise, I don't know if you saw the illustration of the boy who actually had learning difficulty, but the school actually made him to believe that he doesn't have any struggles. So because of that, he had high expectations of himself about academics, and that was actually affecting him, making him misbehave. So it's not every time a child does something because he's learned. Now, this is where we actually need for a child to place his concerns on the table. When the child places concerns on the table, we are going to realize the root cause of the misbehavior. That is why we have a book in this group that is about understanding why children misbehave. You understand the root cause of your child misbehavior. You are able to proffer solution. You are able to understand if it's an issue of lack of skills or an issue of discipline, most especially. So let me go back to my stuff and read more and see. Okay. Okay, there's another thing I actually learned from the book, which makes a lot of sense to me. It says, when a child struggles in maybe math or literacy, what do? We get a teacher for them. We get help for them to learn those things. But when a child struggles with behavior, we don't do that. We just assume that the child is misbehaving and still waiting. Someone is still waiting. Someone is still waiting. Okay. I can't see you. I can't see you. I can't see you. I can't see you. Let me just invite everyone. Can't see you. Please come back, ma. Okay. Can you still hear me, please? Can you still hear me? Can you
Yes, we
see?
can.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma. So I was just talking about that. We need to understand that it's not every time the child behaves or misbehaves that the child actually intends to do that. So we need to understand. When we understand this, we'll be able to meet the child. So that's one of the things I actually learned. And like I said, shared earlier on, I also learned again the role of philosophy. When you have a philosophy towards something, just like you have your your value, then you not just value, value is not what I want to say, your mission statement, that kind of guides what you are doing. You are always, sorry, someone is entering. It actually guides your path in your parenting. You have your philosophy. So that's one of the things I want everyone to create in this group. From this book, I've learned about philosophy, and it's something I want everybody to. I've learned to take philosophy seriously, and it's something I want everyone to create in this group. Let's have our own family philosophy. When we have it, it's going to guide us. We are always going to say, okay, like say, children behave when they can, if they can. Children behave if they can. If that is your philosophy, for example, it's going to guide you. And it says that is one of the things schools don't have. They don't have philosophy, nothing. You know, they just have, I don't know if you got the part of where the child, Casey, is it Casey? I think one of the last children, Casey, where they brought this education authority, the psychologist, where the education administrator or something kept talking about consequence for the child. Give the child consequence, give the child consequence. And he was saying that consequence is not working. You have been giving the child consequence for a long time. It's not working. So why do you keep giving the child consequence when it's obviously not working? You know, that's because of what they know. And I also like the part where he talked about they always believe that if a child is indulged, maybe not indulged, not in the sense of indulging, if maybe the children that are not explosive, if they see that the child that is explosive is given a bit of an allowance, they too want to behave like that, so that they will be given an allowance. And he says no, they will not behave like that. And he gave an example of a child who was helping an explosive child. The explosive child was teaching her maths, and she was listening because the explosive child is good in math. And when it was time to switch to music, the explosive child was not going to have it. And the child actually was able to calm down. Now, there is something I learned about that, which actually see play out in my children a lot, because I always want to like talk to them, calm and like negotiate with them. Sometimes I see my other children also doing the same thing. When they are talking to each other, maybe when somebody says no, they are going to start, actually my older son, he's going to start bringing reasons, start lay your cards before you, like something like, I've heard him tell his younger brother, if you don't do this, this and this will happen, or this other thing will happen. You know, even though he doesn't have the power to make those things happen, I see him lay down his card, let him know his options. If you don't do like this now, what do you think will happen? And this can be this, and this can be that. And each time he does that, I always feel like, oh yes, I'm a winning mom. Each time he does that, really. So that is what we see in this same book, where the other child was helping the explosive child get hold of his emotions and was able to help him transition from math to music hitch free. We saw that. So this book is a great deal, is a lot for me, and I want to encourage everyone to go back and read it. So go back and read it, really. If you have not read it, please just listen to the audio. Try and listen to the audio. Okay, so he also talked about the reasons why these children are explosive, because they lack certain skills, which are the skills we need to teach our children. Whether they are explosive or not, we need to teach them the skills. And the skills are executive skills, language processing skills, emotion regulation skills, cognitive flexibility skills, and social skills.
Cognitive.
Yes. I don't know if you saw these, but I saw them. Sorry, I'm trying to see. So yes, he talked about these keys we can teach them. In case you don't see these keys, I'll repeat them so that you can hear. He talked about executive skills, language processing skills, emotion regulation skills, cognitive flexibility skills, and social skills. We already know, if you read the book, you sure will understand what these skills. Sorry, my laptop is somehow. If you read the book, you sure will understand what these skills what these skills are about. So we need to teach our children these skills. Another thing I learned from this book, which we already have here, I think during the emotions control class, I talked about it. I said we should make a list of those things that make us yell at our children. Yes. When you make a list of them, then you now sit down and look at them. You want to understand, are they really misbehaviors, or are they just us concluding? Is it that they need skills or they need discipline? Because either they need skills to behave better, or they need discipline to motivate them to behave better. So you need to understand what you are going to apply. I mentioned it, and so they also mentioned it here. Talk about how children also get triggered. What are the factors that trigger them? It is when they are triggered, that is when you two are triggered. Something is responsible for why they behave. One of our, I don't remember the sheets that I shared. I talked about how your child was feeling or what your child was doing before they behaved the way they behaved, that actually made you react. It is one of our emotions control sheets. We talked about that. So the author also listed a couple of times that children get triggered to misbehave, that we also get triggered to react to them the way we react. Someone is still waiting. I can't. Okay. Sorry about that, ma. Okay, talk about some of the times that we get triggered to discipline them or to yell at them. Now, some of those times are for parents with little children, can be homework time. I've seen parents smack their children during homework because they are not getting it right. And I always say that, see, it is not because, especially teachers in school, there is something, I've taught in schools, there is something I always notice in the classroom. When a child is not coming up as expected, teachers are angry, they are beating. I'm always asking them, why do you think this child, do you know that the child in your school, they actually want to do well? Because they see that the other children doing well, they get stars on the board. I know how many times the children come home and tell you, Mommy, I got 5 stars today. Mommy, I got 3 stars today. My daughter, her teacher is owing her stars till now. She keeps reminding me every day, Mommy, if Mr. Kenny add the stars, the 5 stars is owing me to the 23 stars I have on the board, that means I have 28 stars. So next week I'm going to make sure I have this, I have it, so that I can have more stars. What does this tell you? That these children, they are eager to please the teacher. They are eager to come tops in their class because they want to get stars, because they want their classmates to applaud them. But if they are not coming up, it simply means they are struggling. Like I tell my children, I tell them that if you are doing something, you don't get it right, it means that you have not learned how to do it properly, or even though you have learned how to do it properly, you are not making enough effort to actually do it properly, or you are not making enough effort to do it properly, or you've not learned how to do it properly, what are you going to do? If your case is you have not learned how to do it properly, what are you going to do? You are going to look for how, you are going to learn how to do it. If you're not making effort, what are you going to do? You are going to put more effort, or you are being distracted. That's the last one. If you are being distracted, what are you going to do? You are going to make sure you refocus your attention so that you get it right. Same thing happens to children. We need to help them understand, okay, why is this child struggling? You know, it's not just beating. I've seen teachers beat children a lot for not getting the questions right. And I say, oh, if only you know what goes on in the mind of this child, you will know that the child is eager to have more stars on his star chart so that he can get home and share with his parents. The parents will give him a hug and say, I'm proud of you. They want that more than they want anything. So if the child is not getting it, they are simply struggling with it. We do not realize that. So that's about homework. And sensory hypersensitivities, yes, I know this for my daughter too. Oh, her clothes are always itchy, and sometimes I just get angry. Imagine, I just told myself I'm not going to be making a ball dress for her. You know how much you used to make a ball dress. You want to make a ball dress, how much you pay? Or you want to buy a ball dress, how much you pay? Then I will now go all out to make a beautiful ball dress for her. The next you tell me, mommy, it itches. Mommy, is it? Then we have siblings interactions, bedtime, wake up in the morning, meals, being bored, riding in the car, okay, for school recess time, those children that find it difficult to transition from play to classroom, being teased, reading, writing, being tired, being hot, being hungry, a lot more. Now, these are some of the triggers of explosive children. It's not just explosive children, but every other child. Children can be in the car, they are bored. They can sit in the car, they are bored, you know. And because children have short attention span, they easily get bored. They get bored. But because we are more enduring than children, we just expect them to sit still. I remember when we were traveling by road from Lagos to Benin, my kids, they got tired. They were excited to travel in the first place. But when the journey was too long, you know, Lagos to Benin can take up to 4-5 hours. They were so tired, and every 5 minutes they were just grumbling. You know, I know that can be a trigger for many parents, especially when you yourself, you are even tired of the journey. There was a lot of hold up. But the truth of the matter is, children, they don't have that endurance as adults have. Well, we should know this. They don't have that much endurance, so they can be bored. They can be genuinely bored, and we should learn to give allowance for them. They also can be tired, they can be hot, they can be hungry, and all of that. We should learn to give allowance for them. Okay, someone has mentioned this one already. Flexibility, someone has mentioned all of this already. Okay, there are 3 steps for doing plan B. Yes, the author talked about the steps for doing plan B. He said there are 3 steps for doing plan B. The 3 steps are empathy plus reassurance. Empathy plus reassurance. That means you need to understand where the child is coming from. Empathy plus reassurance. The next one is to define the problem. And the last one is invitation. First one is empathy plus reassurance. The next one is to define the problem. And the last one is invitation. That is where he talks about collaborative problem solving. Collaborative problem solving, that's CPS. Empathy simply means you are patient enough to listen to your child, to understand where your child is coming from. That is empathy. And without empathy, we cannot really be able to understand where our children is coming from. Empathy requires you to pause. Empathy requires you to listen. Empathy requires you to ask open-ended questions, like we see a lot in this book. Oh, ask open-ended questions. What do you mean? Like, we are not assuming. No, you ask open-ended questions. You ask your child, okay, what do you mean? That is empathy. Your child tells you, most times you rephrase. Now, some children, especially if you have teenagers, they also have read a lot about empathy. So they will understand that you are just being mechanical. When you say, okay, your child says something, you actually repeat that same thing after your child. I'm never an advocate of repeating that same thing after your child, because it sounds mechanical to me. It sounds like you are playing by the books to me. So what I actually do, I rephrase. If your child says something, you rephrase in such a manner that the key element in what your child has said is also in your what you are telling your child. You just rephrase to better understand what your child means. That's empathy. Because if you don't understand exactly what your child means, you will not be able to help. So you rephrase to understand exactly what it means, what he or she means. It is in your understanding that your child brings, in your asking open-ended questions, that your child brings his concerns to the table. This is why I am doing what I am doing. And then you will now bring your consent to the table. Okay, this is why I'm actually thinking this is the issue. You define the problem. This is the common problem we have. And lastly, you invite the child to problem solve with you. Now, I do this with my children, but I have not been so consistent with it. Sometimes I see myself doing the plan A. Yes, plan A. So one of my goals this month is to completely switch to plan B. That is my goal. To completely switch to plan B, to completely switch to collaborative problem solving. That is my goal for this month, to completely switch to plan B. So what I want to do is every single time they come up with something, I want to drop my phone or drop my book or drop what I'm doing and take that. I know it's time consuming, like the author said, it's time consuming. But the truth of the matter is, plan B will help your children build their reasoning capacity. It will help them develop common sense. It will help them develop good judgment. It will help them develop conflict resolution skills. So this plan B is very, very important that we actually take it and we actually run with it. There's a lot of very many things I learned from this book. I cannot share everything here. So I just hope that we go back and read again. And if you cannot read it, you can just at least go to read the audio, listen to the audio. The audio is about 5 minutes and 5 hours. You can choose to listen to the audio every day. Just even if it's 5 minutes every day, you're not in a hurry now. You are not going to review by the end of the month. Just listen to the audio, maybe 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. It's a lot. It's quite helpful. If not for the fact that I needed to jot down some things, when I listened to the audio, that would have been okay for me. But I needed, because I'm more of I read more, I learn more by reading, even though the audio also helped a great deal. But I wanted to jot that when I was listening to the audio, I realized I need to jot down some of these things from this book. That was why I went back to the book to actually read, so I can summarize my own reading from it. Otherwise, the audio was just as equally as fine as the book. So you can just take your time to listen to your audio. And like I always say, you don't have to dedicate one time, say, oh, today I'm going to sit down and listen to this audio. No. What you want to do, maybe on Saturdays, you're not in a hurry to get up from your bed, you can just put your phone beside you. When you wake up after your meditations and everything, just put on your audio. Listen to it for like 10, 20 minutes. Listen to it. When you're ready to stand up, you turn it off. Even on Sundays, you wake up extra early, you listen to it. Even sometimes in the morning, you wake up before your kids, you are rushing to cook, to prepare breakfast, you listen to it. I listen to my audio. I have a music, I call it music box, this MP3 in my house. What I do, when I'm bathing, I'm listening to it, because my phone is not loud enough to cover the water running. It makes noise and all of that. So I listen to my MP3, I put it on, it amplifies the volume. So no matter how much noise I'm making in the bathroom, I can still hear it. I'm cooking, I'm doing the same thing. I'm cooking, even if it's just 10 minutes, I'm cooking. I just put it on, I can still hear it there. And sometimes I'm taking a walk, I just put it on my hand, I'm listening to it. That has helped me a great deal. I'm taking a walk, I put it on my hand. I'm even driving. for school run or anything, I put it on. I'm listening to it. So at the end of the day, realize you'll be able to listen to it. What I do is, when I listen to, maybe I'm only able to cover 10-15 minutes. I write the time it stops. The time it stops. I write it down. I just go to my WhatsApp. I write stopped at 1 hour 15 minutes. Or I just screenshot. I screenshot. So if I'm a screenshot. So if I'm going to resume my reading, my audio listening, I'm just going back to where I stopped to resume. That way I can cover everything. Okay. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you. Have any other thing to say? You have something to say, ma'am? Hello? All right. Since there's nothing for us to say, thank you so much for joining the review of today. We continue in the WhatsApp class.